Hey comic book fans, welcome back to another episode of Comic Book Users. I'm Wild Building Unknown Comic, your host, and the founding father of the show right here.
Pete Pardo here, everybody. How's it going? Thanks for joining. We've got another episode of Inside the Cover today. And I decided, since I've been reading, if you guys remember, about maybe, I don't know, a month or a month and a half ago, we did a new acquisitions episode for me, and I showed off a bunch of new Daredevils that I had picked up, or new old Daredevils.
Filling gaps.
Filling gaps, right? So this particular one is one I just happened to read yesterday, and I figure it's fresh in my mind. Why don't we do an Inside the Cover episode on? Because it's a pretty good one. It's issue number 108. Of Daredevil, the Man Without Fear, guest starring, of course, the Black Widow, and there you see the Beetle strikes by night.
And we haven't done any Daredevil inside the covers yet.
I don't think we have. No, you're absolutely right. And in this issue, Daredevil returns to New York, but is this the deathbed of Foggy Nelson? And here we got a very fine Johnny Romita cover on there, very colorful. The Beetle I always thought was kind of an interesting villain. He kind of sucks, but he's kind of cool, I guess, and he's always like a thorn in the side of Mr. Matt Murdock. So here we've got Steve Gerber writing the story, Bob Brown did the art, Paul Gulacy on the inks, which is kind of interesting. We were just talking off camera. Most times when you think of Paul Gulacy, you think of his long run as the artist on Master of Kung Fu.
This is a 20-cent book?
This is a 20-cent book, yeah.
So it's probably, what,
73,
okay.
Yeah.
So he didn't do Master of Kung Fu till 2 years later, 75.
Right, so there you have it. So it was with that book that he started doing all of the interior artwork for that particular title, and he really didn't do a lot more in Marvel other than some assorted stories here and there, but here he's teamed up with Bob Brown. However,
he did do some artwork in their magazines, Epic magazine, Marvel, which came out like 1980.
True.
So he did branch off into some of the magazines.
Yep, and he had a short run with DC doing Batman as well. Which is really cool.
I guess his legacy remains with Master of
Kung Fu, yeah, which was incredible. By far, he was the best guy who ever worked on that. So here we've got Daredevil and Black Widow out in San Francisco, right? So
no, that's not Frank Robbins.
No, it's not. You're right. That's what Bill said. He goes, look at that weird body pose there. That definitely looks like a Frank Robbins body pose. But here in the hands of Bob Brown and Gulacy, that doesn't look too bad. Although Natasha's looking a little strange here. She's got all this hair going on. But anyway, one of the things about the Daredevil comic back from this kind of era is there was just constant drama going on. Constant drama going on between Matt and all his various girlfriends, right?
Drama.
There is always an issue with Matt and Karen Page, or Matt and Natasha, or Matt and what's her face? God, I'm drawing a blank. Heather, and all the various women that he was ever involved with.
Always a love triangle.
Always a love triangle. So here it's no different. So Black Widow obviously is in a relationship with him at this point in time. But now he's got these weird feelings going on for Moondragon. Moondragon kind of entered the picture a couple issues before, and he's kind of conflicted because he's got like this kinship with Moondragon, even though she's like not from this planet, and Black Widow is kind of pissed off by it. So here they are arguing. She's like, what's your feelings for her? What are your feelings for me? Yeah. And of course, in typical guy fashion, especially back then, he's just like, I don't know. I don't know what my feelings are for you, dear. I don't know what my feelings are for you, for her. And she's like, fuck this guy. Like, it's like, I thought we were
wrong answer, buddy.
Right, exactly, right? So here they are, and they're flying around the rooftops, right? And people are like, oh, look at them, and they're bickering, right? And so all of a sudden, like this gang of thugs goes and holding up an old lady. So they go down and they save the old woman, right? And so the next page, after some old ads, right? So the next page, they're like beating the crap out of the thugs, but Black Widow, of course, because she's pissed off at Daredevil,
she's taking it out on
She's taking it out on these guys.
Oh yeah, she goes overboard.
She totally goes overboard. She's pummeling this guy.
And he's like, "What are you doing?"
And he's like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "Let me." He goes, "You've already beaten him, or you've beaten him already. There's no need to." She goes, "Take your hands off me. Do you hear? Let me go. You can't hold me. No one can. Let me go. He's scum, human filth. He deserves to be hurt, to feel pain." But he's like, please, no more, no more. And then Daredevil goes up and he slaps her. And he's like, that's enough. And she's like, I can't believe you hit me. It's like, what were you trying to do? Kill him?
Yeah.
And she's basically like, she takes off. Yeah. So meanwhile, the cops show up And the old lady's like, thank you, Daredevil, for saving my life. And I really wanted to thank the young woman, too. And he looks around and she's gone, right? So he's like, ugh.
And the thug is like, I want to thank you, too,
for not
right? I added that part in there, but yeah.
But that's exactly what happens. So then he goes back to the place where they're staying, and of course his little not spider sense, his little whatever you call it, radar sense is tingling, and she's waiting for him in the bedroom, right? So he goes, she goes, Natasha, thank the Lord, and she's like, hello, Matt, come in. He goes, you sound pensive, having second thoughts about how you reacted back there. So he's not even dealing.
No, she's still pissed about the girly thing,
right? So he's like, do you feel bad about like beating that guy senseless?
She's like, you don't get it, moron.
And she's like, you want me to say you were right, don't you? You'd enjoy that. This whole dialogue is just great. And you can get 15 records for only $1.97 from Columbia House. And so he goes, enjoy it. Tasha, what is it? What's wrong with you? And she's like, you really don't know. How can you be so insensitive, so thick-headed? You hit me, Mr. Big Brave Hero. You hit me like I was some kind of criminal. And he goes, you might have beaten that man to death if I hadn't. And she goes, man, you call that scum a man? He deserved to die. He would have let his friend knife that old woman, and now you stand there defending him? Well, I'm sorry, old friend. Now she's like, old friend, right? Never mind the fact.
Well, he is a defense attorney.
But when I see that kind of rampant brutality, something inside me snaps, and then he goes, and you sink to their level yourself. How admirable.
Yeah.
Wrong thing to say. And she goes, you may think what you please. And he goes, I think we should discuss it again later when we both cool down. And so
he's acting a lot like Batman.
Right. I was just going to say that. That did not end well, right? So then he goes downstairs, and there's Moondragon, and there's, what's the guy who's always kind of in charge of Natasha? What's his name?
Irvine? Irvine?
What's his name? I forget his name. Whatever.
It's not Igor.
Ivan. There you go. You were close. You were close. So he's sitting there talking to Moondragon. She's just kind of hanging around. They see a news thing come up on the TV, and he find out that Foggy Nelson has been the big popular DA has been attacked in New York, and he's in the hospital. And he's like, oh my God, Foggy, he can't be dead. He can't be dead. He's in critical condition. So he goes to Ivan. He goes, book a plane for me and Natasha. We're going to go to New York. We're going to go make sure the Foggy's okay.
This took place in San Francisco, right?
Because they're in San Francisco, right?
Yep.
And she goes, and Black Widow stands up and she goes, reservations for one will be sufficient, Ivan. I'm afraid I have to hurt you again, Matt. I'm not going with you to New York, and particularly not to help Foggy Nelson. And he's like, Natasha, what is this? Are you so determined to get back at me for this afternoon that you'd ignore a friend in peril of his life? And she goes, I am not a petty little fool, Mr. Murdoch, nor is Foggy Nelson my friend. And then she goes and talks back how early in her career,
they're not a team anymore.
He put her in, he was obviously the competing lawyer against her and blah, blah, blah.
The teamwork effort is quickly dissipating.
Yeah, totally. So she goes, no, Matthew. It's just so cool because now all of a sudden she's calling him Matthew, right?
Yeah.
So she's pissed. I hope your friend recovers. I wish him no ill, but I never want to see his face again. And he goes, so that's the way it is, huh? And then Moondragon walks in. May I interrupt, Daredevil, Madam Natasha? There is no need for airline reservations at all. As my spacecraft is at your disposal, I shall go with you to New York. And then he goes to her. He goes, lady, you never fail to amaze me. And then Black was like, or me. So she's like, we may depart whenever you want. He goes, give me a few minutes to pack up. And then he goes to himself. He's thinking, why do I feel so hollow inside of me? Part of me just died. And then basically after they leave, he just says basically goodbye. They take off. And then Ivan and Natasha are talking, and she's like, yeah, I think we're done after all that. And she's crying. She's like, why am I crying? And he's like, you're human. You're allowed to cry. She goes, I don't cry. Black Widow's not supposed to cry. But basically, she's hurt. She's hurt, and she's like, we're done. That's the end of my relationship with...
and he left me for a skinhead. She's got nice locks,
Yeah. So then they're in the spaceship and they're going back to New York, and he confronts Moondragon, saying that, I'm not really sure what it is, but I think I have feelings for you. What about you? And she goes, yeah, I think I have feelings for you, but you have to forget this infatuation.
Yeah,
and he's like, forget it, lady. I don't know how they do it on Titan, but on Earth it's not that easy. Is there a reason? And she goes, a single very sound one, I'm afraid. Our respective orientations towards life in the cosmos. We're galaxy apart that way, Daredevil. I've seen things, learned things out among the stars which you would, any Earthbred person would not be able to understand. So we need to basically just end whatever this is before it happens. So he...
so that's when he finds out that he's into her and she's not into him.
Well, she's into him, but she's like, I know this can't happen.
Yeah, she's putting the brakes on.
Right. So they get to New York. She drops him off, and that's that. So he's like, all right. So then let me go visit Foggy in the hospital. So he takes off the Daredevil costume. He's Matt Murdock. He shows up. Foggy's all of Foggy's relatives are there, and blah blah blah. And Foggy wakes up and he's like, "Hey, long time no see. What's going on?" And he starts talking about this whole like gang related thing that's been going on, and he was targeted, and he's been investigating. And you have to, you have to help me. He goes, this group, they're going to steal government printing plates on exhibit in Midtown New York, and it's part of a plot by the Black Spectre. So he goes, and then he passes out. So he's like, Black Spectre, stop them, Matt. You got to stop them. But he doesn't know any other information. So he goes, of course, leaves the hospital, puts on his Daredevil outfit, and heads over to the museum or whatever the hell it's being held. And who does he confront up in the rafters between buildings? But
the Beetle.
The Beetle, right?
So the guy who's on the main cover finally shows up at the end of the book.
3/4 of the way through the book. 3/4 of the way through the book. And he sneaks up behind Daredevil.
What page is that?
That is page 26.
Yeah.
26. And there's your little Marvel value stamp, the Hulk. Not one of the best depictions of the Hulk ever, but hey, whatever. So they go, and of course they start fighting right outside the museum. So as they're fighting, they go crashing into the museum exactly where these plates are, right? So of course they've got like armed guards around the plates, right? So they think that Daredevil and the Beetle
are both in on
together,
the heist.
So they start shooting at the both of them. So the Beetle grabs the plates in the glass container with his suction cups, and him and Daredevil are like, going at it here. And finally, Daredevil figures out a way to overtake the Beetle. He takes off his helmet. Apparently the helmet is what controls all the other contraptions, all the suctions, all that kind of stuff.
And the wings.
And the wings. Yeah, right, good point. The wings. So as soon as he took the helmet off, the wings just went dead.
He lost his power.
Dead weight. Yeah, so now the Beetle is laying on the ground. He's got no power now because of that. And then who busts in with tear gas but the warriors from the Black Spectre. So they come in. They grab the plates. They take off.
So they're not part of the Beetle.
They're not part of the Beetle.
So they're not on the same team.
No, they're not on the same team. But the Beetle found out that those plates were going to be there. He figured he could take them because that was what was going on with the dialogue. The Daredevil thought that the Beetle was working with the Black Spectre, and he was
now
not.
He finds out that they're all independent.
They're all independent. So now he's sitting there with the Beetle, and the Black Spectre dudes grabbed the plates and they left.
The only plates I can think of that are government owned are money printing plates.
Yeah, it could be.
What else could they be?
Yep. Yep.
So
that's the end of the issue, and then it says, the mystery deepens. The peril looms ever larger as this tale continues 60 days from now in 2 Marvel magazines. Daredevil 109, the Black Widow, ally of Black Spectre, the leader of the Warriors, human or something more, and in Marvel 2-in-1, Daredevil and the Thing smash the Menace wide open, or do they? So this story continues in Daredevil 109 and Marvel 2-in-1 number 3. So there's your kind of cliffhanger right there. Daredevil 108, kind of an interesting story. I actually, to be honest with you, I found more the crazy love triangle stuff more interesting. Yeah, because it was just so classic.
And that's the first half of the book.
Yeah, it's most of it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So this is basically the kind of crumbling of the relationship of Daredevil and Black Widow, which was always, I think,
on eggshells.
Yeah, that was never going to last. I always thought it was kind of a weird relationship between those two, but because she went from Hawkeye to him.
I don't know where else she went.
Yeah, maybe
she tangled with Spider-Man, but that was combat. There wasn't.
Yeah, they didn't have a relationship. Interest. Yeah, so.
But she did get around in the books. But she spent most of her time in the Daredevil books in the early 70s.
Yeah, she did. So there you have it, folks. Inside the cover, Daredevil 108. Let us know what you think of this if you're familiar with the story. Yeah, if maybe it'll prompt you to go out and buy it. The storyline continues to get better from here.
I have it.
Yeah,
I read it a couple of years ago, but I picked that up when I started collecting again.
Yep.
Anyway, gang, I'm Wild Bill, as always, saying thanks for being here. Please click the like button if you like this video. We need your support. Share this video if you like with your friends that don't know about comic book geezers. As always, thank you for your comments and your subscriptions. And please click the notification bell so you'll be kept in the loop every time you see a new video from us. You'll know. Anyway, gang, hope you liked this episode, and we'll be back with more Inside the Cover. I'm going to do one next, and I ain't telling you what it is.
Yes, stay tuned, right?
Take it easy.
Thanks, everybody. For Wild Bill, I'm Pete. Have a good one. Bye-bye.